Welcome to the Northern Business Podcast. Each week we're talking to people active in business and the economy about big issues driving growth in the north of England. We're sponsored by Vertu Motors, one of the UK's largest motor retailers. Its website is vertumotors.com. That's V-E-R-T-U Motors. I'm Graham Robb. I'm owner of Recognition PR. We help scores of businesses promote their services and products. Some are featured on this podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Both our guests are down the line today. We've got Rick Helliwell, who's founder and managing director at Ovenue, which has dozens of people driving around in vans in the north of England to clean your ovens. It's a great, successful and thriving franchising business. And we also have Chris Morgan, who's a partner and head of corporate at Savage Silk, the law firm. Later in the podcast, our producer, Harry Sinclair, will be speaking with Bill Sawyer, who's head of Yarm Preparatory School in Stockton, and Michelle Henderson, who's director of the foundation development at the North East STEM Foundation. And it's all about getting young people to look at STEM subjects when they're considering their options. More about that a little bit later. Right, gentlemen, welcome to the programme, Rick and Chris. Now, there's been, you're both at the front line in business for different reasons. Rick, you run lots of businesses because you're franchising, and Chris, you do a lot of deals in business because you're advising lots of businesses. Chris, first, is life quite sprightly at the moment? Are you busy? Is your phone ringing?
It is, yes. We've had a lot of instructions in the last 6 months. So just a bit about Savage Silk. And we're a full-service law firm based in Newcastle and Stockton, but we've got clients throughout England and Wales. We're a full-service law firm, as I said, so we do dispute resolution, otherwise known as litigation. We've got an employment department, corporate commercial, property, private client, and a residential department as well. I've
got to congratulate you because you've just become a partner now, haven't you?
Thank you.
Just a few weeks ago. What are you responsible for?
So yes, thank you very much. I was made a partner on the 1st of May. I've been at Savage Silk for just over 2.5 years, and it feels like it's flown over, but it's in a really good way. So when I started in December 2021, I was the only really corporate lawyer at the firm, but now we've got a firm, department of 5 lawyers at different stages of their career. So we've got the strength and depth to take on a wide range of transactions. So in terms of my role, I suppose it's split between the admin side of running the department and being involved in the management side of the firm, and in particular supervising the trainee solicitors and the up and coming and the future of the firm. And then there's the being a solicitor aspect of it, so drafting documents, liaising with clients and other intermediaries like accountants and corporate finance advisors, and keeping the clients up to date and making sure the transactions progress as they're supposed to.
And your part of the business does all the transactions, deals, mergers, acquisitions, that kind of thing.
Yes, that's right. So we've got a wide range of transactions ongoing now. So I suppose there's 2 sides of our business, of my department, I should say. So the first one is the commercial side of things, which is the terms and conditions, the service agreements and supply of goods agreements, that sort of thing. And then the corporate side is the transactional side of things mainly. So that's in relation to asset sales and purchases, share sales and purchases. And we've also done a few quirky things like issue loan notes, which are used when companies want to raise finance quickly. So we act for both investors and for the company who's getting the money in. And then we do other things like company restructures. In terms of the transactions we've been involved in recently, the most obscure one, I think, was when we sold the shares in the mining company. So I had to very quickly learn how a mine operated. But we've been involved in various range throughout the industry. So we do sales and purchases in hospitality and leisure, in pharmaceuticals, and also in manufacturing as well.
Rather like when houses are bought and sold and stamp duty changes. If stamp duty is about to go up or down, it will affect the housing market. Now, there are taxes involved in buying and selling businesses. One of the most obvious ones are capital gains tax and entrepreneurs relief and so on. And with the election upon us, there is a bit of speculation in the business community that a Labour government might change those taxes. Are you seeing anyone react to that speculation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got a couple of transactions, one where the client wants to get it completed before the end of June, because as you say, we just don't know what's going to happen on the 4th of July. I think it's the same whenever there's an election in the pipeline, that people want to have a bit of certainty so get all their ducks in a row before the election comes, so they can tie down and so they know what tax they have to pay.
Okay, let's bring in Rick and find out about his business. Rick, you've been in this business for a long time now. It's a franchise business. Just tell our audience what you franchise.
Good afternoon, Graham. Hi, Chris. Okay, so the Avenue franchise is a bunch of self-employed individuals working in their own local territories, following a tried, tested, and trusted business model that, in our case, we've now had for just over 30 years. So the whole concept of franchising is extremely appealing. Not for everybody, but for those that are happy to replicate and duplicate what's already been done before, it's a really, really good, profitable route to market. So you get all the benefits of being self-employed, and also you're going to be trading under a huge corporate umbrella, but at a very, very local level. So yeah, it ticks an awful lot of boxes. As I say, it's not for everybody, but over the years, we've been fortunate to have recruited some really affable people. We tend to put square pegs in square holes, so we don't end up having bust-ups or ructions with the franchisees. We just kind of let them get on with it and provide them all the tools and products and bits and pieces that they need to deliver outstanding oven cleaning results for the consumers across the UK.
So you've got these people in their vans going out to service and clean people's ovens and Argas as well, not just electric and gas ovens. And in the north of England, as I said at the introduction, you've got dozens of these people. And if you've got someone, you've got a territory that's maybe not got a franchisee, what would someone have to do to be awarded the franchise?
Okay. First and foremost, as I say, Graham, we're looking to put square pegs in square holes. So we're not just looking to recruit anybody that turns up with a juicy bank balance and a pulse. We have a process, a recruitment process that we have to go through, probably not dissimilar to some of the bits and pieces that Chris has got in place, where it's not just a tick box exercise. We need to make sure that we're putting the right people into the right territories. Yes, there is a modest investment of just 12,400 plus the VAT to become involved, but in exchange for that, we're going to supply the new franchisee with absolutely everything, including signage for the vehicle, to get them off and running. So that's the training, the accommodation, the products, the tools, the equipment, and most importantly, the know-how of how to make and how to run a really profitable local oven cleaning business.
And what kind of return can a franchisee expect?
That very much depends on the time, effort and resource that each franchisee wants to dedicate to run their business. Those that are quite happy to, let's say, tick along without boiling the oceans, they're going to be turning over roughly £1,000 a week, whereas the go-getters, those that are happy to maybe just pop in the extra job here and there, are looking nearer thick edge of 17, maybe £1,800 a week turnover.
Right. So you could be, you could, if you took a few weeks off a year, you could be turning over £40,000 to £50,000, and then obviously your costs come out of it, and you're a self-employed person, aren't you, as a result of all this?
Yeah, all the franchisees are self-employed. Yeah, I mean, we're looking for franchisees these days that are looking to generate profits in excess of 50,000, rather than turnover.
All right, let's have you both on screen then, because I want to talk to you about some of the issues that are maybe going to affect different types of businesses. The people, maybe, Chris, that you're doing deals with, the people, Rick, that you're helping out as your franchisees, and of course the customers who have to spend money in the economy at the moment. Chris, what do you make about the current state of the economy? The growth figures are pretty middling. It's not really doing much as far as growth is concerned. And inflation, though, has come down. What is your take?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not sure if inflation has come down enough to make a difference, or if it's of the inflation decrease we've seen has been going along to have an impact yet. And maybe the next 2 or 3 months, we might see that being a bit more influential. I mean, in terms of interest rates, yes, I mean, we've certainly seen issues with sales and purchases where we act with the seller in a couple of situations where the buyer has been unable to obtain funding because their initial lenders pulled out or they just weren't able to obtain funding in the first place. We've got a transaction on where we're selling shares in a family manufacturing company, and it's taken a bit longer than we expected because now the buyer's having to spread their funding over 2 second-tier lenders. So decreasing interest rates would definitely help down the line.
And availability of finance, is that a little bit better than it was a few years ago, or is it still tough?
I think it's still pretty tough on the whole. I'd say that the example I gave before is a prime example that it's quite difficult to get funding, especially from tier 1 lenders. And I think when second-tier lenders get involved, they tend to want a bit more security. So you've got the normal personal guarantee from the director behind the buying company, for example, but then you've also got the charge over the property which the director might own or the buying company might own as well.
Rick, what do you think of this proposition? The Bank of England shouldn't not cut interest rates tomorrow because there's an election on. I keep reading in the newspapers and the commentaries that the Bank of England won't cut rates in case it influences the election. But surely the Bank of England should do what's right, whether there's an election on or not. The people on the Monetary Policy Committee are not fools or knaves. They are professionals and they should do what's right. Public services don't stop because of an election. They should do what's right for the economy.
Agreed. But then when do politicians always do the right thing? When do manifestos get adhered to? In fact, it's very interesting to note that Reform UK have actually completely renamed what they're bringing to the party by way of a business plan as a contract. A signed contract that everybody would like to think would be or could be legally binding. The Bank of England, as far as I'm led to believe, is supposed to be completely independent from any political sway. But it's interesting to note that all of the local councils, I believe, through the UK, right the way from 3 weeks ago up to the election, I think there's this 6-week period where they can't fundamentally do anything.
Yes, it's called PERDA, and I think there's a lot of excuse making as well. I did notice, I checked this out, in 2001, people on the Bank of England MPC voted to change rates. In 2005, during the election, people on the Bank of England voted to change rates. Now, there weren't enough votes to actually change the rates, and the same thing happened in 2019. But if they had enough votes to change the rates today, you obviously think they should. They should be allowed to. Do you think that rates should change? My view, personally, is that we are in the right environment for a modest cut. I don't think it would be inflationary, and the growth is proving stubbornly low. So why not?
Things are going the right way, as Chris alluded to. Inflation, look, whether it's 4%, whether it's 2%. It's still inflation. Things are still going up. The cost of living is still getting tighter and tighter and tighter. What would be ideal, and I know that it's probably more of a utopian dream than anything else, is in certain instances, as we've got in the utilities, we have deflation. And if that could produce a period, maybe 2 or 3 quarters of zero inflation, where you've got a few bits going up and a few bits going down, that would give people and businesses a lot more confidence to lend, to borrow, to pay their bills. I'm
not sure I agree with you, actually, Rick. I mean, if we had deflation, say there was deflation in the car market, then if I wanted to buy a new car, I'd say, oh, well, it's coming down next month, I won't buy it. I'd delay purchasing all the time and the economy would grind to a halt again.
I don't necessarily subscribe to that, because with the yin you've got the yang. So
would you cut rates, Rick? Would you cut rates if you were on the Bank of England committee today? Would you cut rates?
No.
And what about you, Chris? Where do you stand on that? I would personally. I don't. We have a shadow MPC, and it was marginal. Few people said they would. Few people said they wouldn't.
Yeah, I think on the whole, I probably would. Maybe a 0.25% would be quite good. I mean, I think you're right in the context of an impending election. I think, unfortunately, theoretically, the Bank of England should do what's right. Unfortunately, in practice, I'm not sure that really works, because when people have got money in their pocket and have got some spending power, then the government tends to be on the up. When people haven't, the government tends to be on the down, whether or not it's the government's fault. So I think in the context of an election, if you want to keep it fair, I think the Bank of England should keep it the same, and then maybe at the end of July, once the elections happen, then decrease the interest rate.
Now, all the major parties have put out their policies. I don't particularly want to ask you to advocate for an individual party, but have there been things that have been said maybe across the piece that you'd like a bit of this and you like a bit of that? If you could select a la carte for each party's proposals, is there anything that grabs you? I quite like the tax cut for self-employed people that was proposed, but I think it was the Tories proposed that. You've got a lot of self-employed people. What do you think about that one, for instance, Rick?
We have excuse me. Yes, all of the franchisees are self-employed. I believe they've already got shot of the class 2 NI and nibbling away a couple of percent on the class 4. I don't think it's really going to make a blind bit of difference. So to that end, I rather like the sound of increasing the threshold under the reform contract, tickle that up to £20,000. I think that would have a massive positive effect.
Okay. Chris, have you seen anything a la carte in proposals that, you thought that's quite sexy?
Yes, so I think general comments from Labour about the environment seem to be fairly positive. So from a non-sort of solicitor point of view, a general perspective would be tax breaks for electric car regimes, and whether that's the firms that manufacture them or sell them or the individuals who take them out, maybe through a salary sacrifice scheme. But I also think, more generally speaking about the environment, that investment in nuclear power would be good. I think wind and solar can take you so far, but you need a lot of infrastructure on those two bases, whereas nuclear can fulfill a lot of environmental needs fairly easily.
Okay. And Rick, we were talking about inflation. Have you, because it's all about the prices people like you have to charge customers, have you found it difficult to keep a lid on prices? And customers don't want to see them going up every time they have the oven cleaned. What measures have you taken, productivity-wise and IT-wise, to keep a lid on them?
It's not just what we do that people don't want to pay more money for, Graham. I don't think. I'm pretty sure people aren't over the moon at having to pay more money for a loaf of bread and a pint of milk.
Quite right.
What we tend to find in the service industry sector as a whole is that people will still spend money on our service gladly, because they know what it is that the features and benefits that they're going to gain as a result. What we found is they just tend to move their next clean, the scheduling just becomes a little wider, so the dwell period just extends a wee bit. But as that happens, what we also tend to find is that people that maybe once upon a time were looking to replace their appliance are now coming on board and working out that not just from a financial point of view, but from an environmental point of view, it is way more cost effective to get us in than it is to get the likes of Currys and Dixons.
Okay, well, listen, Rick, on that nice bit of advertising, I'm going to leave it before I go to Chris for the final word. But the last question for you is, in the north of England, do you have any franchise zones that you've got free that if people wanted to buy a franchise from you in the north? Yes,
we do. We'd be very interested to talk to anybody in northeast, northwest, couple of pockets in Yorkshire as well. So, yep. Right. People just dive onto the website avenue.co.uk, have a hunt around for the franchise button in the main nav, and they'll be able to find any and all of the available territories, including one or two existing businesses that are up for resale as trading businesses.
Going concerns. Excellent.
With very healthy turnovers.
Very good. And Chris, I'm going to give you the last word. We were talking about inflation. You run in a solicitor's practice, dealing with corporate clients. you're not immune from price rises. Just my firm isn't immune from price rises, but we have to look at service sector inflation as well and maybe grab productivity gains. Has your business done things like introducing AI? Has it got ways that it's managed to get productivity gains that the clients can benefit from?
Yes, definitely. So I think the first point is I agree with Rick that if you can deliver a good service and show clients you can give a good service, then you're able to charge a reasonable fee. And we're certainly not one of those firms who buys in the work, gives a low quote, and then ranks it up when you get near the end of a transaction. And I think the second point of that is that there are the clients out there. If you're willing to put the effort in and try and find them. I mean, most of our work comes from referrals rather than sort of a cold call from a client. So whether that's accountants or corporate finance brokers or other clients as well. I think if you get a referral from existing clients for a new client, it shows that you're definitely doing something right.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. Rick, Chris, thank you very much. Now, on our podcast regularly, I credit my producer, Harry Sinclair, but we've never seen him apart from now. He's done a quick film for us. Please listen and have a look. It's over to Harry. Let's see where he is and who he's been speaking to.
Thanks, Graham. I'm here at Yarm Prep School, which, in conjunction with the North East STEM Foundation, has organised 14 businesses from across the region to come and put a primary STEM day on to engage students in the region with the wonders of science, technology, engineering and maths. Let's see what they have to say. First, I caught up with Bill Sawyer, head teacher at Yarm Prep School.
Here at Yarm Prep, we are coming together under the umbrella of STEM. We're partnering with a range of local schools and the North East STEM Foundation to bring together a range of challenges, workshops and opportunities to develop our love of science, technology, engineering and maths. We really value STEM sector jobs for the next generation and the children who are going through education at the moment. They will certainly allow our children to develop skills that are going to be transferable. Problem solving, strategic thinking, helping them to develop ways of working that are really useful in a range of different industries.
Hi, my name's Michelle Henderson. I'm Director of Foundation Development at the North East STEM Foundation. 12 local schools engaging about 450 children, giving them the opportunity to learn about STEM. The aim of the North East STEM Foundation is to inspire and engage as many young people in STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths. We've had fantastic support from companies across the region.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a physicist at Tracerco, and we're here today with a radiation safety exercise. So the students have been presented with a scenario where we've lost a radioactive source and they have to find the source in a safe way. So they're using personal protective equipment, they're learning a bit about different radiation detectors that we make, as well as how to safely find radiation and to make the situation safe. I think these events are really important in just introducing young people to the amount of different careers that are available within STEM. I didn't have anything like this when I was younger, and I can only imagine that if I knew more about the different roles that were available, it would have helped me to sort of understand more about STEM and the potential futures that were available to me.
I think it's hugely important for us as a school and the North East STEM Foundation and local industry partners to come together to put on days like this because they're fun, they're exciting, and they're really going to energise and infuse the next generation about the wonders of STEM, the opportunities that it offers, and the great sense of learning to solve things in a resourceful way with a range of different people.
I'm George from Kirk Leventon. My favourite activity was the micro bits because we got to program it ourselves, and it was just fun knowing that we'd made the game and we'd programmed it, and now we were watching it work almost.
Thanks, Harry, reporting from that special event where lots of schools came together to learn about the provisions there are for STEM education, get the youngsters thinking about working in that sector or choosing options in that sector for their education. And great to see Harry there. Harry and I went down to Chesterfield this week where we met a new business called CBE Plus, and the woman managing director and owner of that business, a big manufacturing business. She's coming on the podcast next week, Marie Cooper. Looking forward to speaking to her. Thanks to podcast producer Harry Sinclair, technical operator Robin Campbell. Join us next time for the Northern Business Podcast. Never miss an episode. Like, rate and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.